Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 86th episode of our first run through the House of Light expansion for Book of Hours, playing as the archaeologist and getting a lot of reading done, but not a terrible place to be in terms of a game. Especially too, I finally caught up on this big reading list that was sitting in the Long Tower, I actually kind of hope to do that after I'm done recording. I've a couple things I've been really looking forward to catching up on in terms of reading, and I'll actually confess, this is the title music, and it's always nice. I always feel a little happy whenever this comes on because I remember exactly what it was like to play the game for the very first time and hear that music. I also remember there's actually a specific moment when you first enter the game, and there's a couple of other times that that music comes up, which I remember, and that has this nice connection both with the first moments of playing as opposed to opening the title screen. But one of the things that I remember was when I started what was then the new job. Of course, now it's old hat, and I'm embittered and looking for a new one. No, I'm not. But it was actually the music that plays when you wash up on Crowcross Sands. Or I guess it's not Crowcross Sands. It's St. Brendan's Cove, and it kind of sticks with me. So I don't know. It's a soundtrack I'm very fond of. Anyways, as nice as it is to wallow in nostalgia, let's find out what we want to do with the rest of the day. So we're going to work on opening up the Blackened Staff Room. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to collect all of the lessons first, and then we'll worry about leveling them all up. And then, depending on how much time we have left for the rest of the day, we'll see if we can... I don't think we'll level everything, but we'll at least make some decent progress. Okay, so we're at the 7, and here it was going to be canned ham. The taste will remain reliably unchanged for many years to come, which is, in some respects, an advantage. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. I can offer my assistants something to eat. This will increase their aspects. It's also just friendly. The other thing we were going to do was use the Ruby Wise Ruin, which, again, it's a high-level Grail drink. It always feels a little funny to give it up for its heart, but it's what I've got, so... Alright, another leaf on the Tree of Wisdom. So this helps me with corruption, but has the ever-important heart aspect. So... Although, at this point, leveling it up to 2 really just brings me at the same level as herbs and infusions, so... There's always more to learn. Improve this skill to level 2. This will increase its aspects, which will help with crafting and make it suitable for higher branches in the Tree of Wisdom. Excuse me, Tree of Wisdoms, if you haven't already committed it. The sustenance has boosted their aspects appropriately. Last but not least, a little something to wash it down. A ruddy liquor wrung from flowers, even when the flowers aren't red. I can offer my assistant something to drink. So we should be finishing... Okay, that's a little longer than I thought, but... The skill is now level 2. Its power aspects have also increased. So one approach I don't mind taking here, with Snow Stories, I need Moon and Winter. Actually, Sacra Lamea, I already have what I need, so we'll level that up first. I'll give up the I'll probably have to give up the Tris, but I'll start with the Faust. So I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. Now, had I been thinking, I really should have used all that water that I've got to restore elements of the soul. Clearly, I was going to need that by the end of the day, but that's fine. Again, we'll take what we can and move ahead, and then Denzel will be giving me a bit of support now that Mrs. Kill is at the level that we need. So, the Blackened Staff Room, the same story as the yard below. Seared bones, blackened walls, furniture half consumed by fierce fire, but much of the room remains untouched. Speak to Denzel, who might even reply. The skill is now level 3. Its power aspects have also increased. Alright. So, I suppose I have a little bit of a question for myself, which is how much longer is it? I mean, we're really just waiting for about 30 seconds for both of these texts to finish, so I think it's probably better for me to just chill for a little bit and see what I'm working with. He does a lot with silence, this man. This will be helpful for snow stories. So I could use the old wound right away if I am so inclined. In fact, what's the argument for... Yeah, I think... So I don't have any winter to throw at it. I'm going to have to use the Tryst, but that's fine. So what I'll want to do is I'll use the Edict's Martial with something. I just don't quite know what yet. A very simple one that I could do would be to take the Edict's Martial with a metal. We'd still be able to do the old wound because we've got 8 wound to work with. But we don't need to wait until basically the end of the day for that. Well, I mean, we're basically at the end of the day, but I don't need to go nuts. I do, however, want to see... Yeah, I want to see exactly where we sit in terms of memories. Like, again, as expected, we're not going to be able to level everything up in the one go. We have half the day still available to us, though. And at this point, what I kind of want to do is just get a read in terms of how much effort I'm going to need to put to get things to the slots that I want on the Tree of Wisdoms. But equally importantly, there's going to be a couple of gaps that I now have because I'm moving somewhat aggressively through Horamakistry, so I'd like a little bit of a game plan in terms of how I'm going to get to the level that I want for all of the things. So we've got Drums and Dances, 2 Wombs, 1 Heart, a fanciful account by Thirza Blake on the early life of the twins, their time as mortals before they became hours or even long in a dry kingdom beyond the Western Sea, which Thirza suggests might have been ancient Mexico. It is widely known that the sister was rich and the witch poor. It is widely known that the witch loved the sister first. It is not widely known that the witch was first employed to teach the sister the arts of embroidery. Although Thirza is very probably just making up much of the story, there are long passages expounding notable techniques of weave work and thread fight. In particular, when witch and sister flee across the sea to be together, Thirza explains how they fashioned a peace weave with Heart and these arts, and then, to tame the winds, called on Heart again to swaddle the thunder in the peace weave. So we've found a recipe for swaddled thunder, but it's obviously not the recipe that's described here. So let's first of all deal with the satisfaction. We put that on a new shelf. Now, stitching and binding is a pretty easy one because that's a brand new skill for us. And if I want, I can use the health to level that up one more time. I'm slightly inclined to do so. An echo of silence, a very heterodox account of the House of Leith is recorded by the Serenity, a Leithan adept who declares that the House of Leith was created explicitly to prevent the ascension of any more mortals to name or hour status. I don't think I've read this one recently. Or at all, maybe. Eternity cannot be escaped, but in history it may be delayed, the Serenity explains. The gods who are flesh, by their nature, are a surrender to eternity. The roots of the house are said to pass into the Wood of Dreams through 3 forests of the bounds, in the bounds, identified as Belilai, the Black Cedar Forest, and the Brecliant. While one tree of these may yet stand, one single tree, the histories continue. Sorry, I really stumbled over reading that. Okay, and that also gets us an impulse. So I think we're back to reshelving time. It's a very impulse-heavy playthrough, I've noticed. So it seems just as easy to put that into the reading room. Come on. Yeah, it's definitely a temporary solution if we wind up with more revelations, but okay, I don't think we're expecting anything else, so this is really the time where we decide where we want to put our elements of the soul. So, stitching and binding on its own first, then we follow up with satisfaction. Now that would actually require 2 heart. No, sorry, that requires 1 heart because we get this for free. Okay, we're good there. Sacralamea to level this up will require Moth or Sky, so we only have Moth to work with. To level that up right now, that's a level 3. So we need 2 more memories. Unless, of course, unless Denzel gets us something special, but probably best not to count on that right now. So the metal will be set aside to... Actually, let's just do that right now. So I'm going to use the metal with Edict's Marshal to bring the old wound back. Could have used the Arab as well. To move up Sacralamea, I think it makes a little more sense for me to go to things that Denzel is less likely to replace. So we'll read the Instruments of the Heart, so that's 2 of 3. And then anything with a beguiling melody, I guess. Wait a minute. Yeah, no, that's fine. Unless... I don't think I have a Moth thing that Denzel can't replace. Actually, I don't think I have a Moth thing at all because we've already got the Impulse. But we should have, yeah, Intimations of Skin. But I don't know why I think I can do this at the Pale Desk. Okay, so we should be able to do Sacralamea and both stitching and binding by the end of the day. So with what we have left over, we can do a walk on the moor, clamber up the long reaches of the moors behind the village, lean into the wind's fluttering fist. If I know what to look for, I might find something among the rocks. The gorse is bright on the land's nape. Alright, so I'm restoring my shaft, but I don't actually have anything really to do with it. This is the time I should be crafting. Problem is I don't have a lot of good ideas. So the best would be if I could somehow make a Solomon's preparation. So if we did one of these, I'd still be short 4. I mean, I could throw the Wormwood Dream at it, but that's a little more than I'd be willing to give up. Yeah, so I don't think I should try for that. Now I could do an Eigengrau, I suppose, as an intermediate step. I could also do, this is something of an unexpected choice, but it's actually a justifiable one. I could also use something like the shaft to brew, you know, one of the various packets that I have here. And you might think that on its own that that's kind of wasteful, but the thing is that, like, right now these are potential, and at some point for them to be realized, I actually do need to use an element of the soul. So that's kind of the argument for brewing something like that. But again, it sort of raises the question: is this the real thing that I need to be doing right now, or is there a way that I can turn this into a helpful memory of some kind? So I guess the other question I have, yeah, this doesn't work because, like, this gives me the. Yeah, I was thinking if there was a way that I could combine the drums and dances, but no. So if I do, I don't know, some of those bells and braziers, the shaft. I mean, bitter black salt isn't terrible, but I hate feeling like I'm out of ideas because I really feel like there's more that I should be doing right now. A lot of bitter black salts. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, right. Because it's 1. Yeah. I should be focusing on knock stuff. But then again, I guess the knock stuff usually is... Well, no, okay. Amethyst ampules never get old. Or I could actually try for a Gervinite. I'm going to do the ampule, but yeah, more Gervinite in the future might be a good idea. Obviously, I'm out of ideas for the shop, so we'll just earn the money. Well, that's probably not the smartest idea. He does a lot with silence, this man. Could have thrown some more foresight into the problem. Alright. The staff room. The warders at Brandkrug were a cut above your usual prison warder, former bureau constables, repentant no, turncoat Tragulari, veterans of the Legion de Soul. When the end came, none of that mattered, but here, for a while, when the winter storms battered the walls, they hunkered close to this glowing stove to share tea and comradeship and stories of their very different lives. So in this room there is the staff room stove, quiet little furnace, key hooks. All the keys of all the cells still hang here. I can unlock them at my leisure, but the most significant cells of the Cucurbit were protected by more than locks. The least cells I shouldn't trouble with. The keys to the most cells are labeled adept, long, WI, and unhelpfully question mark. A severe chair, unfussy marsh green upholstery. Tiny potted tree, tiny as a ship in a bottle. Dawnline coffee, coffee from beyond the great deserts. Dartboard, the thock of the darts punctuated the long evenings and drifted down the corridor to the grilled doors of the cells. The extragulari always won, and rather soon none of the other guards would play with them unless they agreed to be blindfolded. Unless they agreed to a blindfold. And the staff armchair polished by the posteriors of dozens of loafing prison guards. Also, there's a pot of coffee on it. So we can try and open up the sealed cell, which is a 12 knock or 12 forge affair, so more stuff for Denzel to do. Or we could try and go up to the smoky chamber, which would be a 12 forge or 12 heart. There's a reason why this is a somewhat desirable room for me to go for, but we're clearly not going to be doing that within the next 60 seconds. So, but this means that the metal is sort of open for other uses. Again, I'm short on clever ideas of what to do with it. Edge things might be... No, hang on. If I can make things that get me to iotic essence, that would be best. It's a little bit of a reach, but let's see how well we can do. So there's the bitter black salts. Let's not quite... Okay, so that's going to need a liquid at some point, but let's see what other forgy things we can throw at it. Okay, bitter black salts, that's just one. And apparently I can't put that in the forge of all things. But I think we still have a way around this, so we instead go to the alchemist's glassware. Now that surely will allow us to use the bitter black salts. Now, what I need from here is not just a drink, but a drink with forge. Ideally only a little forge, though. Or specifically a liquid with a little forge, which is not always the same as a drink. Scott's compounds are not a liquid. This is too much to give up. I didn't think it was going to do that, but it doesn't hurt to double check. This I don't think is... Yeah, this is the Strathcoin. I mean, we do have a lot of Roskragan, so wasn't quite how I planned on using it, but pour out. Now I'm gonna have to find another use for the metal in a little bit, but we'll focus on one thing at a time. Poured out. Alright, so if we go to the alchemist glassware, so we can add the transformations and liberations, the metal, the foresight, and then bitter black salts. Bitter as chicory, dark as secrets, but the first rung of the traditional alchemical ascent. Transform this liquid into a ruddy essence of forge power. Okay. So, I mean, if I have to make bitter black salts, so be it, but I feel like we have better options. In fact, what if I looked at this from a different angle? So if we said... Well, that's interesting, isn't it? So I wonder if there's a scaly thing that I can chuck in there. Oh, that's a leaf. That doesn't count as fuel. Oh. Right, this is for the egg. Aha, okay, so this would theoretically be a path to an old moment, which is definitely something I'm going to need reasonably soon, but I don't see a credible path to 3 scale. Like, if I have a liquid or fuel that gets me 3 scale, I'm going to want to use that for something else. Yep. Okay. This is still not a... This is definitely not a bad use of the time, though, because it's helpful for me to know a few of these options. I mean, one thing I can do is just make the Bisclaves not. It's not like I'm going to do anything else with these. Or Thyrsus cordials. I mean, those can be useful in their own right. Let's do the not. I don't usually use it, but I think it's worth. I think it's worth keeping one around in case I want to experiment. All right, the skill is now level 4. Its power aspects have also increased. Moving on. We can level stitching and binding. Use this lesson to acquire a new skill, and then we'll use the health to bring that up to level 2. Actually, I don't think I have... Oh, here it is. Yeah. I tend not to think of the marks as quite as like pocketing a memory, and that's just simply because there are places I can use marks. Of course, none of them are showing up now. Oh wait, no, sorry, that's because it's looking for things that are marks. I think usually altars are good for that. Yeah, but I think all the scale altars are down below. Anyway, we will manage. Another leaf on the Tree of Wisdoms, and we will turn that into a 2nd level right away. There's always more to learn. So the last of this little batch is going to be getting that extra level on Sacralamea. But the more kind of important work ahead of me is I'm going to... this will probably be on Monday's episode, but what I'll be doing is I'll be trying to push ahead with... I'm going to be trying to come up with a bit of a roadmap through the Tree of Wisdoms. So it's not just... Like, we're leveling Sacralamea. We'll probably bring it up to 6, but that then means that I need to find something up to level 5 to commit to Horamakistry. And if I don't have something up to level 5, then maybe I want Sacralamea to be the level 5, and then I wind up using it, the Sky or the Moth, to level up one of my other skills. And that applies for a couple of other skills as well, but the Sacralamea is the big catalyst for that right now. So... the Instruments of the Heart. Sister Isabel, then precentress of the Abbey Church of St. Brendan's, engages in dialogues with a heart-long of a kind called Dwendrazon that has taken partial possession of her body. The Dwendrazon, like all its kind, usually dwells in the Mansis, but can enter the physical world by manifesting as music and take possession of a willing or semi-willing mortal who hears and loves that music, like Isabella. Isabella records her dreams of the High Mansis, where she is accorded the Dwendrazon status and titles. In turn, the Dwendrazon enjoys what it calls Sejura, a welcome oblivion. Our mostly blessing is that we may never cease, except in Sejure. There is something more that Isabella refers to as the Sejura Magna, but she laments that her Dwendrazon will not tell her exactly what that might be. Move gingerly while the pain lasts. The Amethyst Ampule. It has its uses, but none of them are simple and few are safe. I think I'm actually going to stick this down below here. And the intimations of skin, fiendishly complex, weirdly distorted illustrations of Congress and anatomy by the haunted visionary painter Niels Frederick Melsker. Melsker illuminates the evolutions of the names of the Grail with unfortunate clarity. It seems that a lovely who consumes an ivory becomes an ivory. A lovely who consumes a thirstly becomes a thirstly. A lovely who consumes a name of another hour might take its place. In the penultimate illustration, a lovely grapples with a fungoid knot that can only be a name of the crown growth. The lovely's mouth and other portals gape wide, and the growth name is already partially engulfed, but it seems that Melsker couldn't bring himself to illustrate the result, and the final illustration is only a scrawled, bloated obscurity. All right. So I used to say, "My youth, the day is done, and so am I, but I've earned my pay." Okay, got a hindsight. I can talk with Denzel again, but I don't think... Oh, no, it's an unsociable hour. It's late. Another time? So I actually don't think that means we have any memories I can take overnight tonight. Which is fair enough. Difficult tangle of lines. The Bisclave is the half-human hill child of these parts, and this is its sign. I don't think I ever read the description for stitching and binding. Nothing is entirely broken nor entirely whole, not so long as we have our needles. And finally, Sacralamea. Another fruit plucked from knowledge's tree. Improve the skill to level 4. So this is definitely going to take some thinking in terms of future steps. I've been neglecting my to-do list in the... Sorry, where are we? Yeah, I've kind of been neglecting my to-do list lately, so not a bad time for me to catch up. So what I'm going to put here on my to-do, let's say... So I'm going to say Sacra plus 2, but also a bracket, find Horamachistry path. And I'm leaving something that I'm sure I'm going to be mad at myself for on Monday, which says fill out Tree of Wisdoms. So we don't have, like, so this is... It's not going to take us forever, but it is going to take us a bit of time to get Sacralamea up, so I don't have an infinite amount of time to sort of work out the path through the Tree of Wisdoms. But the broad strokes of what I'm going to be doing look something like this. So let's imagine that I get Sacralamea up to 6. So I'll have... probably Inks of Containment, but not necessarily up to 3. So that means that I have 2 skills that I need to get to 4 and 5. Now, if I succeed with that, it now means that I have things in Ithistry that I can level up. It will also mean that I have things in Birdsong that if they're at a higher level, I mean, I have the option of committing a few more things than I did before into Birdsong, although I've always had the option, so maybe it's just the point now where I'm like, okay, let's just figure out where I'm going with a few of these things. A similar story actually exists for Skolakosophy, which is kind of an important one, because I think the way I was going to go originally was Skolakosophy, down Nyctodromy, to Hushery, or I suppose if I went crazy with Illumination, all the way up Illumination down to Hushery. But I guess the thing is that I've got the low-hanging fruit. I guess the way I would point it out, the overall structure that I've had, and this is sort of what's been in the back of my head, although I think I've been doing a very bad job of articulating it, is that there's a set of rooms that I can kind of count on being able to open regardless of what books I get. And this is just a combination of things, right? So when you play this game, if you played it a couple of times through, you know that you're kind of guaranteed a tryst. And if you have a certain character, you pick your elements of the soul at the start of the game before you see any of the rooms, so you can't really know the gaps that you're working out. But you have your core set of elements of the soul. It's pretty easy to wind up with a tryst. And then depending on the languages that you get, you also have a few elements of the soul depending on what your choices are. If you're playing like me with like if you kind of like to have those speech or those those languages in the opening slots, you have just kind of this base that you deal with. And I think I specifically chose the language slots that I did so I could give myself a nice broad coverage of the elements of the soul. But I'm sort of at the point now where I clearly don't have all of the skills yet. And then there are definitely some skills which I would like to have at higher levels that I haven't put in. But we're kind of at a point now where if I want to get to another room, I'm going to have to put quite a bit of effort into doing that. And what I'm getting when I go to a certain room is a chance at a book that might have a skill that I need. So I'm at the point here where I shouldn't necessarily count on getting more skills through opening up more rooms. What I want to be doing instead is I want to be focusing on unlocking all of this potential that I already have. So, even without a Newman, let's say, I've got books that are up to 16 Grail. And I don't know, like in the case of Grail, I've got Great Signs and Great Scars. So, I mean, I guess I could raise that one more level and get that up to 10. But I kind of want to be at that point with something like, say, Opus Magnum Ceruleum, right? So I'm at 5 for Bells and Braziers. That's not nothing. Oh, sorry, that's not a sky. That's a lantern. So I guess Inks of Revelation, I'm at 5. Not nothing, but where am I going to get that 9 from, right? So in the end, what the next few steps here are going to be are just working out, okay, so I've got a few targets on the Tree of Wisdoms. What am I going to commit to the Tree of Wisdoms what am I going to commit to the Tree of Wisdoms that are going to give me those intermediate steps, and which ones am I going to put up so that I can access any of those books that I want? And the important part of that is that once I have some of those structures in place, particularly the ones that open up the different branches, so I can decide, okay, I need, a shaft, so I need to go to Nyctodromy, let's say. I think Skolakosophy gives that as well. Basically, being able to say, all right, well, I know now that I've got that branch open up here, I need to level this up to 7 or 8 because that's going to be the one that gets me that Nyctodromy level. So I'm moving from this idea where previously I would keep things at lower level. Like, really, I shouldn't have a whole lot of level 2s at this point, except for the ones that are already committed, obviously. But I've sort of moved from that point where I'm preserving the potential instead to saying, okay, so I've got a few targets of where I want to go on some nodes on the Tree of Wisdoms. What skills do I want to be the node skills? What are the intermediate skills that will get me there? And what ultimately the intermediate skills are largely going to be determined by, like, what do I have books that'll cover that for, with, again, a couple of other minor considerations. For instance, like the fact that I've got something that's effective against corruption. Actually, come to think of it, I think it's Keeper Skin that I have, so that needs Nectar, which means that Herbs and Infusions is actually still the right choice for that one. But anyways, I think you get the idea. Like, I've got other than the handling the curses, my path more now is to target some specific skills, and that targeting is going to be determined by these racks of books and what I think I have a realistic chance of being able to. Well, I suppose these books as well, but seeing what the realistic path to a few of those targets are. Anyways, I can't believe I think I spent like 10 minutes over talking about all these plans. I will leave it there because for most of you, it's the next video that's up. For those of you watching these things as they come out, I hope you have a very nice weekend. We will see you in the next one on Monday, hopefully, when I am recovered from my various afflictions myself. Until then, take care. See you in the next one.